Indigenous communities were not alone in marking the historic moment of Deb Haaland's confirmation. Nearly the entire state stopped to watch the vote and take note of its importance, and that includes all of our Line Opinion panelists. And Diane, let's start with you. We know that policy-wise you have concerns with Ms. Haaland in the interior, but what did that moment mean to you personally?
Personally, absolutely personally, I was so excited. First, that she was from New Mexico. Two, that she was a woman, and that she was Native American. All of those came into being. They have all played, obviously, a big role in my life, and I think she has not. But I do, as you said, have concerns about some of her positions and things she has advocated for as our Congresswoman. But I remember in the hearing, the committee hearing, she was very clear, because she was questioned on this, is that the things that a Congresswoman from New Mexico would advocate for and be very vocal about would not always be the same things and same role of a secretary, because she had the responsibility of the whole nation. So I'm feeling optimistic. It kind of touched my heart to see that happen. I don't know why, but it did. And I hope that, quite truthfully, she lives up to all those expectations that I have of her. And I think I have many friends who feel the same way. We want it to work because oil and gas and extractive industries are so important to us in our state. And I know she has to follow the advocacy of the president, but I think she has always, I love her saying is about, being brave, and what is the word she uses? Fierce.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope that she is nicely fierce when she knows that the best thing for the country may disagree perhaps a little bit with the president.
That's a good point.
And
That's a good point.
I've seen her act that way on other bills, whether I liked her position or not. But I'm hoping that fierceness will continue to play as she becomes the secretary.
I like that. Senator Feldman, let me ask you this. The clock has immediately started, of course, to replace Ms. Haaland in Congress. Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse-Oliver has now scheduled a special to replace her for Tuesday, June 1st. We have a date. The candidates will be chosen by the political parties. A lot of people don't know this, by the central committees. Do you like that process?
No, I don't. There is a bill in the legislature now that would replace it with a primary election, but it doesn't have time to pass unless it has an emergency clause on it, and that just doesn't look like it's going to come to pass. I want to remind you and everyone that the last time a Democratic Central Committee nominated an insider to run in a special election, they lost. They lost unexpectedly to a Republican. This happened, I think it was 1998 in northern New Mexico, which is a solidly Democratic district, when Bill Redmond won against the Central Committee appointed candidate Eric Cerna. And it also happened again, maybe that was 99. In 98, when Phil Maloof was selected by the Democratic Central Committee, he lost to Heather Wilson, which I'm sure you remember well.
Yes.
So there's a risk at having nominees selected this way, but time is short. And so if you want to make sure that New Mexico is not deprived of a vote for the next several months, it's important to do it quickly.
Senator Griego, 9 Democrats are in. I've got a list here. We've all got a list in front of us. 1 independent and Aubrey Dunn and a couple of Republicans. Let's talk about the Democrat side of the deal. With what Senator Feldman's saying, with a short time period, but you're being chosen, does that give a natural advantage to anybody on that list that you see out there?
Normally it would, but there's several well-known Democratic, there's 4 legislators, 3 state reps and a state senator who are like at the top of the heap, very diverse. I think the difference between what Senator Feldman and Didi said and this election is we have some really strong candidates. I have to say, these are folks who are a lot of women of color, really strong legislative records, a state senator. We have the governor's kind of legislative person. So this is a strong, strong field. No offense to Phil Maloof. I went to high school with him, nice guy, but like he was not exactly our strongest candidate as a Democrat, just to be really frank. And, Eric Serna had a major scandal that was the real reason that we lost.
Yep.
So I think for most of these candidates, really strong background, very diverse. I'm really proud that we have this incredible field of candidates because there's several of them who are very, very strong, who definitely could hold the seat in the general election. So I feel like there's a couple of newcomers who I don't think really have much of a shot, but I'm glad they're jumping in. But I think there are no less than 5 formidable, serious candidates on the Democratic side. I won't speak to the Republican side because I think I'll defer to my colleagues on the panel, but I can tell you it's a pretty strong field on the Democratic side.
Mm-hmm. And all of them, I'm pretty sure, can know that COLA stands for cost of living adjustment. You might remember that from Phil Maloof's run. He didn't quite get that right, and that was a big problem for him back then.
He was a big fan of COLA, though.
That's right. Merit, Republicans, we got to talk about this. Mark Morris is in. He's super conservative, certainly. Eddie Aragon, the radio host, very conservative. Aubrey Dunn is running as Aubrey Dunn, no party affiliation. But from the two folks that are affiliated with the Republican side of the deal, what's your sense of it?
Well, I think Senator Moore's stepping into the race really makes it competitive in the general election for Republicans. Senator Moore's has proven electability in the Albuquerque metro area, which is what is needed to win this seat. So Republicans have had a very difficult time picking up. They've lost on nearly all of their legislative seats. Mark Moores has shown he can win legislative races in the Albuquerque metro, which the GOP has not been able to do in recent years. And that's what's needed.
Is the timing right for him? I mean, I'm not trying to be cute here. I'm saying it might be. As Senator Feldman mentioned, no one can write off any Republican at this point. So does he have the right message? Is he the right conservative at this point?
I think so, because when you say he's very conservative, I think he's very conservative in a pre-Trump sort of way.
Okay.
Because there's actual conservatism and there's Trump conservatism, and I'm not even sure what that is. It's mostly populist. It's a lot of shadow. And I'm not sure that that's going to play well in particularly it's the Albuquerque metro that has to be won.
That's a good point.
And without a primary, you don't really have to get the loud fringes to carry you over. So if he's looking for the business vote and the business owner vote, who may be reeling from this legislative session with some of the progressive measures that have moved forward, I think that could put the general election over to Senator Morse.
Interesting. Senator Grego, we've got about a minute and a half here. There's other names floating out there. I mean, Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller, Attorney General Hector Balderas, State Auditor Brian Colon. I mean, there's a lot of folks that we're sort of, in the media yapping about. I'm not quite sure how serious they are. Do you expect any other big names to jump in on the D side?
No, that ship has sailed. I mean, in the process, at least as I understand it, it's way beyond that. And none of those folks really, they've all looked at it. Maggie Toulouse Oliver looked at it, but I think they've all decided that it's not the right time. And they all have other aspirations. I think this is going to be kind of a messy process, and but it may yield a really interesting candidate, kind of a fresh face in terms of someone out of the legislature, or maybe someone who hasn't been in elected office. We'll see.
Let's see what happens with that bill Senator Feldman mentioned the next time it comes around. I think the voting public would have a much different opinion about how these folks are chosen if they have a chance to get in on it. But we'll be back to take another stab at this one soon. Still ahead this week, the conundrum of oil and gas drilling here in New Mexico.